The world was growing colder. A great ice sheet, vast and unforgiving, was creeping down from the north. Animals everywhere were migrating south, desperate to escape the freezing grip of the approaching ice age. Among them were herds of woolly mammoths, lumbering giants with thick coats of fur and enormous curving tusks. But not all mammoths were eager to join the great migration. Manny, a grumpy and solitary mammoth, preferred his own company. He watched with disdain as the other animals hurried southward, their panicked bellows echoing across the plains. Meanwhile, Sid, a small, clumsy ground sloth, found himself abandoned by his family. They had grown tired of his constant mishaps and his knack for attracting trouble. As the last of his relatives disappeared over the horizon, Sid felt a pang of loneliness. The icy wind seemed to bite through his thin fur, reminding him of his vulnerability. He decided to head south, hoping to catch up with his family and perhaps find some warmth and companionship along the way. But Sid's journey was proving to be more difficult than he imagined. The ground was becoming increasingly frozen, making it hard for him to walk. He tripped and stumbled, his claws scrabbling for purchase on the icy ground. Just when Sid thought things couldn't get any worse, he found himself face to face with a pair of hungry rhinos. They were not happy with Sid for disturbing their meal of frozen berries. Sid stammered apologies, but the rhinos were in no mood for pleasantries. They charged at Sid, their massive horns lowered threateningly.
I'm so sorry. Please don't hurt me.
Sid screamed and closed his eyes, bracing himself for the worst. At the last moment, he felt a powerful force slam into him, throwing him out of harm's way. He opened his eyes to see a towering figure standing between him and the angry rhinos. It was Manny, the grumpy mammoth, and he looked angrier than the rhinos. The rhinos, used to getting their way, were taken aback by Manny's sudden appearance. They snorted and pawed the ground, their horns glinting menacingly in the fading light. Manny stood his ground, his massive tusks lowered in a clear challenge. He wasn't going to let them hurt Sid, not on his watch. The rhinos, sensing Manny's determination, decided not to risk a confrontation. They backed down, grumbling to themselves as they lumbered off in search of an easier meal. Sid, shaken but unharmed, scurried over to Manny's side.
Thanks, Manny. You saved my life.
Don't mention it. Just stay out of my way.
Despite his gruff words, there was a hint of something else in Manny's voice, something akin to concern. Sid, ever the optimist, chose to ignore Manny's grumpy demeanor. He saw this as an opportunity to make a new friend, someone to share the long journey south. Little did he know that their paths were about to cross with others, each with their own story to tell, each with their own reasons for braving the great freeze. As they continued their journey, Sid chattered endlessly, trying to engage Manny in conversation. Manny, for the most part, remained silent, his thoughts a mystery to the talkative sloth. They were an unlikely pair, the grumpy mammoth and the chatty sloth, but something about their shared predicament, their shared vulnerability in the face of the encroaching ice age, was forging a bond between them. Unbeknownst to Manny and Sid, danger lurked in the frozen wasteland. Soto, a ruthless saber-toothed tiger with piercing blue eyes and a heart filled with vengeance, was on the prowl. He led a pack of cunning and deadly hunters, their sleek coats blending into the shadows as they stalked their prey. Soto bore a grudge against humans, blaming them for the dwindling numbers of his kind. He had lost loved ones, fallen prey to the humans' hunting traps and spears. The pain of their loss burned like a raging fire in his heart, fueling his thirst for revenge.
They will pay. Every last one of them will pay for what they've done.
He had devised a plan, a cruel and calculated scheme to strike fear into the hearts of the humans. He would find their settlement, their most vulnerable members, and make them pay for the pain they had inflicted upon his kind. The sound of a baby's cry pierced the air, a tiny, desperate sound that seemed to echo across the frozen wasteland. Manny and Sid stopped in their tracks, their heads turning in unison towards the source of the sound. They followed the cries to a small, sheltered alcove beneath a towering glacier. There, nestled amongst furs and animal skins, lay a human baby, his eyes wide with fear and his tiny fists clenched tight. Manny stared at the child, a flicker of something akin to surprise crossing his usually stoic features. Sid, ever the emotional one, felt a wave of sympathy wash over him. The baby was all alone, abandoned in this harsh and unforgiving landscape.
We can't just leave him here, Manny. He'll freeze to death.